and copper deposits in Eastern Australia. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us.
Yeah, look, thanks for the introduction, and thanks to Kerry and the team for putting on this conference and getting a good crowd here. Just go through the normal disclaimers. You can look at the website for that. What are we about? Look, our focus is really about the Drummond Basin in Queensland. We've, over the last 2 years, assembled a strong portfolio of resources and tenements in the district. While everyone was looking down in Victoria in 2020 and 2021, we made sure we pegged most of the prospective Drummond Basin tenements and sort of went through acquiring the resources that weren't under our ownership in that basin. So what have we got now? We've got 1.6 million ounces in JORC resources. We've been exploring pretty strongly over the last 18 months with drill programs. Obviously the jurisdiction's good, the prospectivity in the Drummond Basin's good, and I'll talk mainly about the Drummond Basin projects and very little about the other projects. But just briefly, we've got a cash flow operation, a gold heap leach operation in South Australia. That's in the process of being divested. We've got other joint venture projects in Victoria, which I'll talk briefly about, the Malmesbury project and Cloncurry, that are funded by our joint venture partners, and we get about $3 million worth of spend on those two projects annually, so we're getting news flow from those as well. And then we're spinning out another project around Mount Morgan copper gold asset, which I won't talk about today. So what have we done? You can see there on the chart on the right, that's the sort of resource growth over the last sort of 3 years or 2.5 years. So we've certainly built a strong resource position. Probably the weakness in the resource, we've only just acquired the Twin Hills resource and the Yandan resource for about 12 months, is there's still a fair bit of inferred material, but we're in the process of doing resource upgrade work on Yandan following the drill program of middle of last year. And we've just started to get, obviously, drilling at the very prospective Twin Hills asset that we acquired from Minjar early this year. And as I said, in the background, we're sort of divesting all the other assets and getting some serious cash or shares for those assets, which we like, but we can't do everything, and bringing that cash back onto our balance sheet to really focus on the Drummond Basin. So what have been our plans and priorities for 2022? Really, it's all about the Drummond Basin, and until we got the Twin Hills acquisition bedded down in January, we were focused on Yandan and the Glen Eva Eastern Silicious Zone trend. We're sort of targeting a 20,000 metre program this year, calendar 22. Following on from the drilling program we did at Yandan last year, we've got a sort of probably a new geological model that we're starting to, I suppose, develop and gives us some confidence for some new targets there. So that'll be coming out to the market over the next few months. We've also been, with the acquisitions, we've got a huge tenement package, which you'll see on the next few slides, and we've got a huge number of prospects, and it's really about trying to rank all those prospects and start to prioritise where we want to spend our money. Separately, in the background, we appointed a COO, Tom Cooney, late last year. He's a strong, he's a mining engineer with a strong project development background. So he's also starting to look at these resources from a development perspective, and we've got, as I say, open pit studies that'll start on 309 and Lone Sister in the next few months, having just obviously acquired the asset. The last time those projects were looked at was probably 2010, 2011, when the gold price was $1,500 Aussie. So we'll do pit optimisation work across those projects, and that'll probably lead to increases in resources, particularly the open pit resource at 309 and Lone Sister. And separately, we're looking at some near-term production sort of opportunities, because at the 309 project, we have a decline there. That the project was previously mined in 2006, 2007. There's probably about $20 million worth of infrastructure there in declines and vent raises. And so there's some optionality if we can find a mill at either Pajingo or near Charters Towers that could take that ore to look at an earlier stage production scenario. And the other projects, as I say, I'll talk about Malmesbury. A little bit about the people. I won't spend a lot of time. Obviously, the market's been pretty soft the last few days. We've got a strong team of geologists on the board with Steve Nano as an advisor and Peter Mullins, really strong epithermal gold experience from Argentina, and Brent Cook, really respected economic geologist in the US, and might finally get out to visit us in July, so we're looking for a field trip there with Brent to show him the projects. Cash, about $2.8 million and marketable securities, but we've also got some other assets that we've obviously just sold and getting cash liberated from those. So moving straight into the Drummond Basin, what have we got there? The three project areas are really Mount Coolin, which was the original project when I got involved about 2.5 years ago. We've since acquired the Yandan asset off Aeris, and that's how they came on the register. And then we completed the acquisition of Twin Hills deposit off Minjar in January this year. Now that acquisition took a long time. There was a previous deal that collapsed before I was involved, but we ended up buying that project that at the time had about 630,000 ounces for $3.5 million Aussie, which was really a remarkably cheap deal, like $5.50 an ounce, but it was partly because the deal was struck in 2018, 2019, when the gold price was a lot lower. So what are we, that's where our focus is. If you look at our tenement package, If you look at our tenement package, as I say, we've got the eastern side of the Drummond Basin and the western side covered. Obviously, the most prolific project in the Drummond Basin is the Pajingo operation that's produced over 4 million ounces since sort of 1986, and it continues to produce. And more recently, production's expanded again, and they've got a resource of still another 1.6 million ounces. But we've got a big package here of very prospective ground, and a lot of these green dots and red dots are projects where we have resources. Some of them aren't JORC resources, but we'll gradually bring all those projects into JORC. What was our initial concept was really looking at Yandan potentially as a processing hub, for a bit like in WA, using that as a centralised processing facility. It's still got a lot of infrastructure from when Ross Mining operated that site in the 90s to mid-2000s. However, our excitement at Twin Hills, to the south here is getting, we're getting very confident that we'll end up finding a lot more ounces down there, and it may be that there's a separate standalone project down there. So a bit more about Twin Hills. So these are some of the historical drill results before we, these were drilled, between 2006 and 2012. We've heard other people today and yesterday talk about 100-gram metre intervals. Well, there's a few there, just a few highlights of ones that are a little bit bigger than 100-gram metre intervals, and lots of them. There's a lot of high-grade zones in this deposit. We've started drilling the 309 deposit to expand the resource there, and then later in this month we'll go down to the Lone Sister deposit. So in our first, we've announced sort of 11 holes to the market as of yesterday. Just the top 5 holes that we've announced, you can see there. Lowest one's 164 gram metres, some pretty spectacular intervals, and we're pretty excited about the project. What I'll talk about is a couple of holes, one section sort of through the middle of the resource, and then one to the west where we are confident that resource sort of plunges west-northwest. So this is sort of through the guts of the resource, and what we're doing a combination in the drilling of trying to improve the resource category, the resource confidence, but also look for extensions down plunge and look for additional targets. So what we're seeing here is very good continuity with the block model. If anything, slightly higher grades than the block model from the previous drilling. But we're starting to see intersections outside the resource model down deeper that are linking up. There's about 3 zones of this 20 gram per tonne zone here that seems to be linking up on our drill releases you'll see in holes some of the other holes, hole 9 and a couple of the other holes. So very confident that we'll get resource growth here. The other thing that's important is when the pit optimisation work was done on this project, the gold price was $1,500 an ounce, and so the pit wanted to push down to about 1050 RL here, and we think with current gold prices, the pit will want to push a lot deeper. The next exciting hole that we announced a few weeks ago was hole 5. So this is over in the northwestern plunge of this ore body or mineralised zone, and you can see the resource outline. There's very little drilling out here. There's only a couple of holes, and we've got good intervals outside the resource area, particularly this 50 metres at nearly 5 grams. That really give us some confidence that the resource will extend to the northwest. It's probably a little bit shallower dipping than we thought. We thought it was a little bit deeper plunging, and it's probably a little bit more northwest than full west. So really excited about these holes, and pretty well every 2 or 3 weeks we're announcing another couple of holes as the assays come in. So this is the project to the south called Lone Sister. Again, we've got about a 270,000 ounce underground resource on this project. Again, in some very high grade zones, 12 metres at 27, 96 metres at 5. So, a lot of continuity. Some of these deposits, as I say, didn't hang together at $700 gold price, but certainly hang together at, $2,200 or $2,500 gold price. So we'll be drilling here in about 2 weeks' time. And then in the region, this is just an example of the silica cap. So you can see Lone Sister, little hill here in the distance, and 309 further north, about 7 kilometres further north. There's this other project called Southern Sister. There are just so many targets in this new tenement package we picked up that we're going to have our hands full for the next few years down here. Other areas at Yandan, I'll just talk briefly. So this is the Yandan resource. We've got a 500,000 ounce JORC resource there. Previously 350,000 ounces was mined. So again, nearly a 1 million ounce camp. We've got some new targets from the drilling we did last year, and we think we understand where the mineralisation might be truncated by the Listric fault. So we'll be going back into this area later this year or early next year. On the eastern side, the original projects, Yandan that Mount Coolin had, we have this trend here, Glen Eva to Eastern Silicious, about 6-7 kilometre long trend. We really liked the trend. We did geophysics over that in early 2020, and we did a little bit of drilling last year. Haven't found the really high grade zones, but it's a very prospective trend, and we definitely want to come back here as funds allow. And this is a bit of just an example of this trend. We've got a 6 or 7 kilometre trend that we've done IP along. At a similar scale, this is the Pajingo system, 6 or 7 kilometres long as well. Multi-million ounce deposits found, and you can see that there's high grade zones in these red blobs which are 50 gram metres, and then a lot of space in between. So it's about finding those high grade windows. So we still love this project, but a lot more work to do to probably find the sweet spots. Just briefly on Malmesbury and Victoria. So we had that project when we first got involved. Again, we can't do everything, so we decided to joint venture this project out with Novo Resources Corp that came in as a partner in 2020. So they bought 50% of the project. It had a small JORC resource on it, and they've got to spend another $5 million to earn another 10% over the next 4 years. So where is it? It's basically about 50 kilometres south of the Fosterville zone. It's Quinton Hennig of Novo was very excited about the geology being epizonal, similar to Fosterville. So that's where the interest came from. We started drilling late last year. We've done 8 holes and 2 to go. We're getting news flow coming out on these stories again every 3 or 4 weeks. I won't go through these. So just some really good holes announced in the last couple of weeks, and another release will probably go out on Friday. We're getting some really good hits below the old drilling that seems to be thickening, and some new splays being identified. Again, high grade zones that we're pretty excited about. So what's I suppose the value proposition and the catalysts? We've got a strong management team that's again well invested and got a lot of skin in the game in the company, over 10%. You know, we've got a strong resource base in the Drummond Basin, and we're very confident that'll grow over the next 12 to 18 months. Malmesbury like the asset, but can't do everything ourselves, and the other projects are really about divesting and bringing cash and funds back on the balance sheet to hit the Drummond Basin harder. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you so much. So.